Welcome to Rugby From The Stands. This is my last episode for 2025, and I just want to say this up front. Starting YouTube 4 months ago has genuinely been life-changing for me. I didn't expect it. I didn't plan for it. I just started uploading, and then somehow thousands of you decided to stay and watch me talk about rugby from this bedroom across thousands of miles away, and I'm genuinely lost for words. But I wanted to say a massive thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's the love for the game that unites us, and I think that's an incredibly beautiful thing. And now, I'm sitting here like a kid waiting for Christmas, because I cannot wait for the 2026 international season to begin. But before we get there, we have to do the biggest pub debate in world rugby. And here's why this episode exists. In the last episode, I did a 2025 review of the Big Four: South Africa, England, Ireland, and New Zealand. And once we stripped out the softer fixtures and focused on the games that actually matter, the numbers were very clear. The Springboks weren't just the best team of 2025, they looked miles ahead. So the natural follow-up question is not were they good? We know they were good. The real question is the one that everyone wants to argue about over Christmas. Okay, how close are these 2025 Springboks to the 2010 to 2015 All Blacks? Have they caught them? Have they surpassed them? Or are the All Blacks still the statistical benchmark of the professional era? So this is a bonus Christmas talking point. Not because we are bored, because the Boks were so elite in 2025 that they've forced this debate back into the open. Two dynasties, two different kinds of dominance. The 2010 to 2015 All Blacks versus the 2019 to 2025 Springboks. And I'm not doing this with vibes. I'm not doing this with nostalgia. I'm not doing this because one team feels better than the other. I'm doing this the only way I know how. Data first, emotion second. And by the end of this episode, my goal is simple. You should be able to walk into any rugby argument and say, here's what the numbers actually show, here's what dominance actually looks like, and here's why this debate is still alive. Let's be honest about the limitations, because credibility matters. In a perfect world, I'd use full Opta coverage, full tour stats, full end-of-year series stats, everything. But here's the reality. I don't have consistent public match stat coverage across eras for every single test match. And unfortunately, my go-to source for stats, Rugby Pass, don't have game data earlier than 2021. And I discovered through a little hack that you can get data prior to 2015 on ESPN, but some games aren't complete. So to keep this fair and consistent, I built the comparison like this. Number 1, Rugby Championship and Tri-Nation matches. Same competition category across eras. Number 2, World Cup matches that are genuinely comparable. 1 meaningful pool pressure game, and then quarters, semis, and finals. I did that for one reason. I wanted to compare apples to apples. It means I'm not using easy World Cup pool games that inflate numbers into cricket scores. Not because those wins don't matter, of course they do, but because they distort the debate. So if you're listening and thinking, hey, where are the July tests? Where are the Northern tours? Yep, that's the gap. Not because I'm hiding them, because I can't access the same quality of match stats in one consistent pipeline across both eras. Opta, Sage, Stats Perform, whoever else owns the gold, sponsor the show. Give us fans proper access to the data so we can analyze this debate with higher quality data and stats. Instead of making me buy an enterprise package that's beyond the reach of an individual YouTuber. I'm not asking for your money, I'm asking for the numbers. So guys, if any of you know anyone from these stats companies, please put us in touch, and we'd love to analyze real quality data. But for now, we have to do with what we have, and that's ESPN data across 2010 to 2015 and 2019 to 2025. And these are Rugby Championship games and World Cup games. So the key question before we even start the analysis is, what does dominance actually mean? In this episode, I'm measuring dominance in 2 ways. Number 1, era dominance. Across the sample, are you clearly better week to week? This means scoreboard margin, attack profile, defense profile, control profile. And number 2, peak dominance. When you hit your best version, what does it look like? That final boss version. And then we add the third layer, the one that rugby fans care about most: big game temperament. What happens when the match is played on a knife edge? Before we start the discussion, I have one quick call to action, only once. If you like this kind of analysis, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it basically tells YouTube to share this with other rugby nerds. Let's get into the teams. Let's start with the All Blacks. Across this sample, the All Blacks 2010 to 2015 total, that's across 6 years, the average is 29 points scored per game versus 16 points conceded. That's a plus 13-point differential per game. Plus 13. That alone is a dominance marker across 6 years. But look at how they do it. Their control profile: 52% possession, 53% territory. So this isn't a team that needs to dominate the ball to dominate the match. It's control without panic, control without overplaying, control that looks normal until you realize the other team can't breathe. Now let's look at the damage profile. This is where that era really separates. The All Blacks run 451 meters per match. Opponents run 316 meters. That's plus 135 meters per game. And just to translate that into rugby language, plus 135 meters isn't we just edged it. It's we spent the whole match making ground. It's you were constantly defending after losing spacing and field position. Then the break and finish markers: 7 clean breaks per match, whilst opponents only had 4 on average. 17 defenders beaten, opponents 13. 10 offloads, opponents 6. And tries: 3 tries scored per match, while they only conceded 1 try each match. Across 6 years, that is not just winning, that is outclassing the teams. Let's now look at defense and discipline. Defensively, the All Blacks tackle completion rate was 90%, opponents 86%. Discipline: All Blacks concede 11 penalties, opponents concede 10. So not perfect discipline, but not crazy mess either. This is why the All Blacks era dominance argument is so strong. They score more, they concede less, they break the line more, and they defend cleaner. And they did this consistently for 6 straight years. Now let's kill one myth properly, that the All Blacks only had one way to win. On average, in this sample, the All Blacks are at 27 kicks from hand per match, 35 kicks per 100 rucks when you normalize it. That's not a team that never kicks. And the best example is the Street Fight Classic, the 2015 World Cup semi-final versus South Africa. In this sample, the All Blacks kicked 47 times. That's the highest kicks from hand total I have in this comparison. Even the Springboks between 2019 to 2025 haven't kicked that many kicks in a single game. And that matters for one reason. It proves they could win a different kind of game when they had to. It proves they could step out of the highlights reel identity and go, fine, we'll win this in the air. We'll win this on the map. We'll win this in pressure moments. And they didn't abandon their DNA. They added gears. Now, here's the part that shocked me when I was collating this. Everyone talks about South Africa beating New Zealand 43-10 in Wellington in 2025. And yes, that is New Zealand's heaviest ever test defeat on home soil, and ever in general. We'll come back to that later in the show when we talk about the Springboks. But when I looked back through this All Blacks era, I was reminded of something important. The great All Blacks teams did this to South Africa as well. Even when South Africa was stacked, even when South Africa were world champion level. And this is the point I want to make to All Blacks fans. If you've just watched your team take its first ever beatdown like that, and it's come against what might be the greatest Springbok team we've ever seen, you don't need to fall apart, because the greatest All Blacks team we've ever seen used to put big margins on the world champion box too. Look at these results. 10th July 2010, New Zealand 32, South Africa 12. That's a 20-point margin. 17th July, a week later, 2010, New Zealand 31, South Africa 17. That's a 14-point margin. 30th July 2011, just a year later, New Zealand 40, South Africa 7. That's a 33-point margin. So the message here isn't, oh, it doesn't matter that we got a beat down in Wellington. The message is sometimes a historic scoreline is what happens when a peak team meets you on a night where everything clicks. And in 2025, South Africa looked like a peak team. Now, I want to zoom into the two All Black snapshots that matter most for this debate. All Blacks 2013, the Rugby Championship sample, because it was a season they had a perfect year where they didn't lose a single game, an achievement no other team has ever achieved. So that year was one of the most successful we've ever witnessed in the professional era. All Blacks 2013 averaged 33 points scored, 19.2 conceded. That's a plus 14.5 points differential. If you look at control, they had 50.5% possession, 53% territory. Attack markers, 421.2 meters run, 6.2 clean breaks, 21.8 defenders beaten, 9.2 offloads. Kicking profile, they kicked 29 kicks from hand, 44.7 kicks per 100 rucks. That's a lot of kicking, more than the All Blacks of 2025. Defense, 88.7 tackle completion rate. That 44.7 kicks per 100 rucks number really does matter. It shows 2013 wasn't just chaos rugby or champagne rugby. It was smart rugby, territorial rugby, pressure rugby when needed. And historically, 2013 wasn't just a good year. As I just said, it was perfect. The All Blacks went 14 wins from 14 tests that season, the first perfect season of the professional era. Now, 2015, All Blacks 2015 average was 32.4 scored, 18.4 conceded. That's a plus 14 points differential. For control, they had 51% possession, 55.7% territory. Attack markers, 524 meters run, 11.6 clean breaks, 23 defenders beaten, 12 offloads, and their kicking profile, 28.7 kicks from hand, 33.6 kicks per 100 rucks. So less kicking than 2013, but still, they don't never kick. 88% tackle completion rate. So 2015 is a slightly different monster. More territory control, higher voltage attacking profile, and historically, after winning the 2015 World Cup, the All Blacks hit 96.1 ranking points. That's reported as the highest tally in ranking systems. So, yes, the All Blacks dominance claim isn't just emotional memory. It's supported by the match stats and the broader historical record. Now let's go to the Springboks. Across this sample, Springboks 2019 to 2025, that's across 6 years, because 2020 we didn't have any games played. The total average was 27 points scored, 18 points conceded. That's a plus 9-point differential. And the control profile, 50% possession, 51% territory. So on the surface, it looks pretty even, but the style is completely different. Springboks kicking and shape profile. Springboks average 40 kicks per 100 rucks. Opponents average 32. Passing. Springboks 109 passes. Opponents 143. Running. Springboks 94 runs. Opponents 106. So even across the full sample, that's across 6 years, 6 seasons, South Africa are not trying to win the 200 passes contest. They're trying to win the match on territory, pressure, collisions, set-piece moments, and finishing under stress. Their defense profile, the Springboks tackle completion was 84%, opponents 86%. Discipline, Springboks concede 10 penalties, opponents concede 11. So they're not wildly losing discipline in this sample. The bigger story is identity. 2019 Springboks averaged 27 scored, 14 conceded. That's a plus 13-point differential. Possession and territory, 46% possession, 48% territory. So they're not dominating by hogging the ball. And the identity is loud in the kicking profile. South Africa on average kicked 38 kicks per 100 rucks. Opponents, 24. So that's a system. That's not a coincidence. The defensive workload, Springboks make 140 tackles. Opponents make 104. So 2019 is have the ball if you want, but you're going to hate it. Let's move on to the Springboks of 2023. This is the win the tightest games on earth Springboks profile. 2023 Springboks averaged 21 scored, 17 conceded. That's a plus 4 points differential. So it's tighter, tougher, less margin. Meters run, South Africa had 421 meters, opponents 328 meters. Passing stays conservative. Springboks 111 passes, opponents 151. Defense, Springboks tackle completion was 83%, opponents 86%. And this is where South Africa become the kings of the knife edge. In the 2023 World Cup run, inside this comparison, the scorelines are the ones everyone remembers. France, 29-28. England, 16-15. New Zealand, 12-11. That isn't luck. That's a team that built a pressure system, then trained itself to execute it when oxygen disappears. 2024 and 2025, the Springboks stop fading between World Cups. Now we get to the part Springbok fans should be genuinely excited about, because the old narrative was peak at World Cups, dip in between. But 2024 and 2025 are a different story. South Africa won the Rugby Championship in 2024 with a 48-7 win over Argentina to seal it. Then South Africa retained the Rugby Championship in 2025, beating Argentina 29-27 at Twickenham to hold New Zealand off on points difference. And in that 2025 title race, South Africa and New Zealand both finished on 19 points. But South Africa won it on points difference, plus 57 for South Africa, plus 8 for New Zealand. That is a big deal because it tells you South Africa weren't just surviving, they were stacking scoreboard damage. Now let's look at the 2025 Springbok sample in this comparison, because this is where the numbers start to resemble what peak All Blacks rugby felt like. Springboks 2025 averaged 34.7 scored, 25.2 conceded. So 34.7 points scored is actually higher than the All Blacks of 2013 and the All Blacks of 2015. But the difference is that the Springboks concede more points than the All Blacks of 2013 and 2015. So in 2025, South Africa's points differential is 9.5. Possession and territory, 52.5% possession, 56.7% territory. That is a major shift from 2019. Attack markers, 464.3 meters run, 8 clean breaks, 26.7 defenders beaten, 8 offloads, and get this, 4.5 tries per match. Kicking, 30 kicks from hand, 36.3 kicks per 100 rucks. So the kicking identity is still there, but the attack has expanded. And this is where the Tony Brown conversation matters, because it matches what has been reported publicly and what's obvious on the field. South Africa have added not just one layer, but multiple layers. They're still physical, they're still ruthless, they're still elite in the air, they're still elite at set piece. But now they're also starting to punish teams with more ball in hand threat. Now, at the broader 2025 season context, not this comparison, but the full year, South Africa won 12 out of 14 tests in 2025 and equaled the record for most tries in a season with 81 tries. So the another gear story isn't just vibes. There's real evidence that they're trying to become a more complete machine. The headline moment was 43-10 in Wellington. And yes, we have to talk about it. In September 2025, South Africa beat New Zealand 43-10 in Wellington. That match is going to live forever. But remember what I said earlier, big swings in this fixture have always existed. The All Blacks have put big margins on South Africa in the past. South Africa have now done it back in a historic way in New Zealand's capital. So the 43-10 isn't the end of New Zealand, it's a sign of how high South Africa's peak was in 2025. Now we compare the eras. When I'm talking about eras, I'm talking about a full 6 years of 2010 to 2015 and 2019 to 2025. And we're only using the averages inside this data set. The scoreboard dominance for the All Blacks, total average was 29 points to 16. That's a plus 13 point differential. Springboks total average was 27 to 18, a plus 9 point differential. So on sustained scoreboard margin, the All Blacks era is stronger. Attack damage, All Blacks was 451 meters versus opponents 316. That's a plus 135 meters. Springboks, 371 meters versus opponents 308. That's a plus 63. Clean breaks, All Blacks 7, opponents 4. Springboks 6, opponents 6. So the All Blacks separate more cleanly in damage rugby. Kicking per 100 rucks, All Blacks 35, Springboks 40. Passing, All Blacks 148 passes, Springboks 109 passes. So the identity difference is clear. All Blacks, more ball, more skill expression, more strike volume. Springboks, more kick pressure, more grind, more squeeze. Now let's look at defensive cleanliness. Tackle completion, All Blacks 90 versus Springboks 84%. There is a meaningful gap, and it explains why the All Blacks conceded 16 per match on average and the Springboks conceded 18. Now we have to deal with the unavoidable argument. Rugby is more competitive today, and I think there's a fair case the modern era is deeper. More teams have credible attack and defense system. More teams have elite athletes. More teams can beat you if you drift for 10 minutes. So I'm not going to pretend I can solve that with one spreadsheet, but I can say this. If modern rugby is tighter than South Africa putting up a 2025 profile of 34.7 points scored, 56.7 territory, 4.5 tries per match, 26.7 defenders beaten, that is not normal behavior. That is what it looks like when a team is approaching that rare air. Now we do exactly what I promised. We compare the peaks. All Blacks 2013, the Rugby Championship sample. 33.7 points scored, 19.2 conceded. That's a plus 14.5 points differential. 50.5% possession, 53% territory, 421.2 meters, 6.2 clean breaks, 21.8 defenders beaten, 9.2 offloads, 29 kicks, 44.7 kicks per 100 rucks, 88.7 tackle completion. Now, let's look at the All Blacks of 2015 stats. 32.4 scored, 18.4 conceded, plus 14 points differential, 51% possession, 55.7% territory, 524.4 meters gained, 11.6 clean breaks, 23 defenders beaten, 12 offloads, 28.7 kicks, 33.6 kicks per 100 rucks, 88% tackle completion. And the extreme example, 47 kicks versus South Africa in the World Cup semi-finals. Now let's look at Springboks 2025, which for me is the most dominant version of the Springboks. 34.7 scored, 25.2 conceded. That's a plus 9.5 points differential. 52.5% possession, 56.7% territory, 464.3 meters gained, 8 clean breaks, 26.7 defenders beaten, 8 offloads, 30 kicks, 36.3 kicks per 100 rucks, 80% tackle completion rate. So what does this actually say? It says something that should genuinely excite Springbok fans. The Springboks in 2025 are scoring like a peak All Blacks team. 34.7 points per match in this comparison is right in that peak dominance territory. But it also says what South Africa still needs to close the gap statistically. The defensive cleanliness is not at peak All Blacks level yet. The All Blacks peak snapshots are 88% to 88.7% tackle completion. South Africa in 2025, in this comparison, in this data set, are at 80%. That's the gap. And that's why they concede more than the 2013 and 2015 All Blacks. And the scary part for everyone else is that's a fixable gap. Because we know Jacques Nienaber will be back. And South Africa don't need to become the All Blacks. They just need to tighten a few areas while keeping the 2025 attacking output. So here's my honest verdict. Based on this comparison and the wider context, if we are judging eras in totality, the All Blacks 2010, 2015 are still, hands down, the statistical benchmark. The scoreboard margin is bigger. The defense is cleaner. The attacking damage is more consistently separated from the opposition. And that matches the wider historical record too. Perfect 2013 season, 14 wins from 14 tests. Also, post-2015, they scored 96.1 ranking points. It's the highest any team has ever hit. So the All Blacks still own the era dominance crown. to win at over 90% win rate across 6 seasons is no joke. Hence why statistically, they still have the edge. But let me finish. Before the Springboks fans start bringing your pitchforks against me, the 2025 Springboks are showing us what peak All Blacks felt like. And the scary part, I don't think the Springboks have peaked yet. They retained the Rugby Championship in 2025 on points difference, plus 57 versus plus 8, and their end-of-year wrap says they went 12 wins from 14 tests and scored 81 tries in 2025. And yes, they handed New Zealand a historic 43-10 defeat in Wellington, and they smashed France, and they smashed Ireland. So, South Africa aren't just collecting trophies, they're evolving into a more complete team. They're achieving this by rotating their players, blooding younger players while evolving their game style. And that's why I'll end with this. If South Africa win in 2027, if they pull off a three-peat, then the debate shifts. Not because the All Blacks weren't great. That 2010 to 2015 All Blacks will always hold a place in the annals of rugby history. But because a three-peat would be a dynasty that spans eras, styles, and generations, and it would put the World Cup part of the argument so far out of reach that the whole conversation changes shape. And right now, it definitely looks like they're on their way there. That's it. That's my final episode of 2025. If you've listened all the way through, thank you. You're the exact kind of rugby fan I built this channel for. And before you go, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with one rugby mate who loves a good debate. But most importantly, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Who's the greater team? The 2010 to 2015 All Blacks or the 2019 to 2015 Springboks? And I know this now. A lot of Springboks fans are going to disagree with my verdict. So please drop a comment and tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me what I've missed. Tell me which matches, which moments, which context matters most to you. Tell me why you think the Boks have already surpassed the All Blacks era, or why you think they're about to. But please, let's keep it respectful. No abuse, no personal shots, no nonsense. We can disagree hard and still keep it classy. Because at the end of the day, it's the love for the game that unites us. Enjoy the break, enjoy the off-season arguments, and I'll see you in 2026 when the international season starts again and we get fresh data to argue about. I'll see you in the next one.